same way it originated. Oh yeah, let me tell you something else from some recent doctrine.
It's merely a management document, how you are going to run my place for me. It is there. I have made sure that I've gotten a copy from the government printing office. It is there. I kept the receipt so they cannot say they did not print that. So you have to understand, you have to get back your clarity. Them chicken about the very Maroons as to who he is. Look here, we have a 500-year-old Ashanti stool in Accompongton. We smuggled that on the ship and off the ship. This was no buck-up thing. That's why you go to Guyana, you go to Trinidad, we all speak the same original Twi language. It was a revolution plan. My ancestor was kings, and we say, yo, them are catching you know. Say, here where you do. My father look at me and say, you are going to be the next king, so them are catching people. Take 50 of your cousins, them and make them catch you know. Carry that stool here, and anyway them carrying the people start back the damn fire. That is what it was when you go to Cuba, we are called Mambisi. You go to Brazil, we are called Condomble. We still speak the same language, and our genetics prove that we are of the original bloodline. It was not a buck-up. We came here on a purposeful war. We understand that. There's an Accompong Maroon by the name of Dirty Bookman that left here and went to Haiti and started the Haitian Revolution. Understand? You have been so bullshitted that they have Nanny as one on the national hero. Nanny never Jamaica rotted. So how she won a Jamaican national hero? The Jamaican state criminalized Nanny. But she's now your hero. I want to not understand it. Them telling us that we catch slave. Where? Maroon signed no contract with the government because it was an 80-year-old ancestor fight. And them never allowed nobody on their plantation to learn English. So we would not have signed a contract in English. That's a lie. That's something them do afterwards. In law, they say if they walk, it's because you win. They started a war and asked for peace. Our understanding is that was a surrender. So you walk to Accompongton because we won and you signed. It was not unwritten treaty, it was by Ashanti blood rituals. Because you take calabash with rum and cut him on and make the blood dripping, and hold Gutrin and cut him on and make the blood drip and mix the two blood and drink that. And Ashanti blood out. Anytime you broke that blood, I go spill again, drunk. That's what it was. All of your narratives are what is given to you by the Jamaican state. You have no history. The average Jamaican inside here cannot tell me where your great-grandmother born. I can show 40 generations unbroken of the women in my family. I know who I am. That is where we have to go back. To understanding of self. Right. Stop believing their narratives that they have given to you. Maroons called slave. Where? No slave run away. Where was the slave running to? If we never carry go there, you couldn't reach. That's a lie. The slave who was born on the plantation was taught that those the idiots up there in the bush are fools. So them now live back a nice life and I wear back her pretty clothes. A 10,000 Maroons scattered in 5 villages. 400,000 black slaves and 15,000 white men. Explain to me, big bad Jamaicans, how 15,000 white men govern 400,000 owner. Could that be possible today? That means you need to, Uno Jamaica need to check for the ancestors. So the ratty don't never stand up and join them there. Maroons are not the problem, you are. And they understood that, so they made sure that they printed all these documents and told them, so no, come with a corrupt mindset towards us. And we are the revolution. My name is Daniyel Bozra. I am an Accompong Maroon. Nyanki Pong Biki Yo. We must know and understand ourselves. We have to be back who we really is. Even the very ganja culture. Remember, say, you couldn't grow it in a week, keep all of the seed. Everybody know in Jamaica say, you go, when you want to grow a good crop, percent go a foreign, you go check your maroon kernel because the police can't go up, they go fuck with shit. The last murder go on a Maroon town, a policeman come out, they come see people ganja and chop it down. I shovel them shoveling body and put in a plastic box, send go back to Santa Cruz. We are who we are. We have to be back that set of people again, unapologetically. Them cannot trick you if you understand yourself. This is how they have made you slaves. Everybody have Jamaican government documents with full capitals name. Full capitals is not a name, and noun is capital followed by common. What does full capitals mean? It means that you are a corporation, you're a slave, you're a creature of the state. So you stand in front of any court, the judge writes plaintiff in error because you're already less than a person. You have to free yourself from that corporation because they always have dominion over you. You have no rights. Ask yourself, You were given no class where your name was taught to write in full capitals. So why in all your documents is in full capitals? That is not a noun. Hence, it is clearly not you. You must understand what it is to free yourself. You were born in 1970 when the government borrowed money in 1972. Do you know what? They give to the lenders collateral your birth certificate. And every money you work and pay to the government goes back to that lender who holds your birth certificate. If your birth certificate is the title to you, why is it that you only get the photocopy from the government? Who the rotted of your original title to you? Don't you understand? The first stocks and bonds was the black man on the slave market. You are the stock of the Jamaican slave and your birth certificate is your bond. It is written on bonded paper. There is a black number at the top right-hand corner of your Jamaican birth certificate. There's a red number in the bottom left-hand corner. Call any international stockbroker and says, good afternoon, I'd like to check the value of this stock, please. And you say, please, sir, please give me the stock number. And you give him that number on the bottom of your birth certificate. And he will quote to you what you are valued to the state of Jamaica as a stock. I am not a slave.
Greetings, this is HMPTV at the Rastafari Study Center over here in Kingston, Jamaica. I am here with a man. Very, very hard to find this man and catch him and lock him down for an interview, but I finally got it. His name is Daniyel Bozra. Now, let me give you a little why he's here right now. At the Shawshani Wiki Wacky Beach event, Healing the Nation, there was many different speakers there speaking about a wide range of issues in and around health. And Mr. Bozra did start speaking about health. But as the conversation went on, and he started speaking about the cannabis and the cannabis centre and the work and the healing done through the cannabis and the research being done up here as Rasta, the conversation went more into giving me an understanding who and what he really is as a Maroon. Not only a Maroon, but there was a fire. There was a fire that resonated with me straight, where I had to then make sure that I had an interview with him to get a more understanding of some of the narratives which he was dealing with, or addressing some of the narratives which are out there and setting the record straight, as to speak, in regard to some of the narratives. And some of them were very interesting, which led me further to want to say I have to come and sit with this man here right now. And before we did, we went up to Accompongton, which some people know as Maroon Town, to speak with the council. And for me, it was kind of like a blessing. It was like a kind of an initiation before you can delve further into the understanding of the Maroon and the liberation movement through the Maroon culture and liberty. It was to me it seemed like an initiation where you have to go through this process first. And after going there and meeting the elders up there and understanding the situation of what's happening in Maroon Town, Accompongton is a term I prefer, to be very honest, because that's the name of the place. We could then come back and sit down and have this conversation, and the conversation could be more in-depth because I have an understanding of the situation which is happening up there with our fellow brothers and sisters up there in Maroon Town, and some of the issues and plights they're having in regards to becoming indigenous and what that really means, what real freedom means when you live in a system which caters for your every need but comes with a price. So I'd like to welcome Daniyel Bozra for taking the time to come and sit here with us. And the first question I'm going to put to you is, firstly, you are born and grown as a Maroon. What does that mean to you? What state of pride? Because one thing you said on that interview, the distinction between yourself as a Maroon and the rest of the Jamaicans. What does that mean to you?
For me, it is everything. The fundamental thing is that it gives me a continuity of self. The average Jamaican is unable to tell me who his great-grandmother is, where she was born, what's her name. I can show continuity up to 35, 40 generations and show you that that's who I come from, matrilineally. You understand? So then it gives me a sense of self that is not a sense of self, but an awareness of self, because I know what I am supposed to be. I'm not lost in this world trying to figure out who I am. At no point was I ever figuring out who I am. And then that continuity goes all the way back to the Akana Shanti people in Ghana, because my mother used to sing to me in the tray. we still speak the Twi. Most of our words, many of the words that we use in patois in Jamaica are derivatives of the Twi language of the Ashanti people. So we kept even the language. And so that even addresses many of the lies of the political narrative. You understand? So for example, we are told that the British have a treaty. There could not have been a treaty because having initiated a war and fought that war for almost 99 years without victory, for almost 100 years without victory, the British actually, it was a surrender. In war they say if they walk it's because you win. The fact that Colonel Guthrie put the lives of his soldier and himself in the hands of the Maroons by walking to Accompongton for an official surrender is what it was, a surrender. We understand it as a surrender. The narrative given to the Jamaican people is that of a treaty. And we still then again ask, we as African Ashanti people would not have won a victory and signed a treaty in your language. That was a concoction of the then, and the evidence is there, so that was a concoction of the then governor of the island. Because that's the image they chose to give out to the rest of the world. They had to say they had a treaty. And they conscripted one and then told us that that is what we and them had signed, not understanding that we have continuity. You can't trick us.
So, in regards to the environment and the indigenous rights, what is the overstanding of indigenous rights? Because when you're dealing with indigenous rights, it's just like in the UK. If you say, okay, they will threaten you that you have to have a birth certificate. But if you decide, well, I don't want to have a birth certificate, I do not want to become registered within your environment, then they will say, well, the price of your non-registration means you have no longer access to that which we provide, whether it be schooling, education, and these different things. How does that affect the Maroon? Because you had that indigenous rights and you had your land, which in that time meant you was more dominant than those who were enslaved, because you had that freedom. But as time has moved on, how has this affected? Because in regards to the ability to then move on in a system which is moving forward, but if you cannot access that system, how does it affect the liberty of those in Accompongton and that land?
That is first asking me to operate on the assumption that there are benefits to be had from the system. That's the first assumption that I'd have had to be assuming. But then let us look at the reality. The reality is that the brightest children who get into the University of the West Indies are children of Rastas who are homeschooled, that surpass all potential our previous levels of passing. You understand? So it is clearly that the system only trains you enough to remember to regurgitate what they want. So we're not at a loss if we don't use their schools. If I don't have to use their hospitals, it means I have to create another medical system for myself. It fosters self-sufficiency. We don't mind it. You understand? We don't want to be corporations of the state of Jamaica. Every Jamaican has a document called a birth certificate. The word certificate in law, according to the Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, means contract. So your mother contracts you over to the state of Jamaica. We don't need to do that to our children. I'm not going to. We need to try and avoid that and disconnect from that. We should not be. We are not the stocks and the bonds. Because that's what you are. You are the stock, and your birth certificate becomes the bond. We don't want to be the stocks and the bond for the British financial, corporate financial system. So, as the mere fact that my ancestors live up to my great-grandfather without having to go to their schools, me going to their schools, if it is not beneficial in me maintaining that status of my ancestors, then their school is a total failure. It is a total failure because the understanding which sets me free is not acquired through their institutions or through their curriculums. They do not provide me with that understanding. That which I know was never handed to me by them. You understand? It's just as simple as that. So we have to come to realize that. You see me? And there's a level that we have come to recognize that, look, if I am indigenous, right, what it means is that we have to correct the story and the lies they told us about even this island of Jamaica. One of the biggest lies that has been told is that the British acquired the island by virtue of fighting the Spaniards. That is impossible, because if you were to leave with an army to come and attack what you call it, come and attack Hispaniola, the biggest Spanish island, you'd have to have left with a serious fleet. And if you did not get Hispaniola, there's no way they would have allowed you in a battle to sail come to take on Jamaica. The true story that we as Maroons know and understand is that the British, the French, off the island of Haiti, the British, the French and the Spanish united together to try and get rid of the Maroons. In not being successful, the Spaniards left because they had Big Cuba and Big Hispaniola and left the British here. But they had to explain the British presence on the island to you. So they created that story and repeat it in the history books. They cannot prove it. They cannot show us any records in their records of there having been a war, of supplies having been sent, of armies being conscripted for a war. Story. So we're trying to disrupt all those lies and those narratives that they have stuffed upon our children in history classes.
In regards to the stories and narratives which are passed down educationally through the state system, as to speak, there are, the story that most all African peoples here, or Jamaicans, are descendants from slaves. Whereas there is that's the question I'm going to lead. What would be the alternative, would be correct narrative?
I am indigenous. It means that I am a union of the Africans that came here strategically, the Akana Shanti princesses and royalty that seen their people being captured, came here to start a war. We end up in Cuba as the Mambisi, we end up in Colombia as the Candomblé, we end up in Suriname and Guyana as Guyanese and Surinamese Maroons. We're everywhere with one mission. We still speak the same language, the same genetic markers from our female mitochondria. We're one people. So we know we were sent here. That's why in Accompongton we have the Ashanti stool that I grew up as a child and come see. That was sent by that we came with on the ship. So we know that we don't need to be contained or controlled or dictated to. You understand? We understand that, look, when we come with a mission. That mission was to catch a fire. And in order to catch that fire, you know that, look, you must always find your self-sufficiency every time. We have been made to become dependent. We don't need any of the things that they ask us and tell us that we need. Why must I have to go and give my children vaccination? We have survived this far without vaccination. How did humanity get this far? And if all your children are vaccinated, why should mine be? Then I guess they're safe. Even if my child has something and my child can't give it to them because they're vaccinated.
Seen. Okay.
Yeah.
So going back to the question, or what the question I was trying to get to understand in regards to indigenous, insofar as the natives, who were the natives here, as opposed to the narrative which is taught in the educational system.
All right, history. Dr. Ivan van Sertima, they came before Columbus, detailed and showed us that the king of Mali, hundreds of years ago, left with 800 ships of men and 800 ships of supplies. They found, if you go to Spain and all the European nations and read the documents in their museums, what their conquistadors and sailors wrote, you'll see that they tell you that they found black people around here at the top of the chain. We are the indigenous. I'm a Maroon because I'm a combination of the African Ashanti and the indigenous, the African that was already around here, called the Amaru, from which they get America. We know that. Olmec-Z, which they call Mexico, was the land of the Olmecs. They have found the pyramids in the Grand Canyon and Banff, that area, huge up on the rock cliffs. So we are that combination. You understand? That is what it is. There's no such thing as Arawaks, because the University of the West Indies has done a great injustice to the people of this country, because they keep repeating the story of Arawaks. You understand? But for there to be Arawaks, if one wants to understand oneself, for there to be Arawaks, where's the Arawak archaeology? If they lived around here according to themselves for 10,000 years, where are their bones, where are their things? You understand? No, but what will happen is that if you come across that, you'll find that it was black people. So that will be explained as having been slaves.
So, as the Maroons, being a free people after the victory over the British, as All right, as the Maroon people, yeah, and as a child of the Maroon, or that mixture between the Ashanti and the indigenous peoples, which was here. When you received that freedom of indigenous rights from the British,
No, we never received the freedom because we were never.
Right, no, okay. That's my yes.
When the British asked for a surrender,
yes.
it's always a British surrender.
That's my correction. When they surrendered because they were losing the war, or just like in the Vietnam War, it just wasn't going nowhere. With that, you're where we are now. Okay, now many people look at the Maroons and they'll go and study the Maroons and they're going back to
the narratives
which was given to them. And most books are based on that narrative. One of them being when you spoke about, and this is going to lead into my next question, when you spoke about Nanny of the Maroons, saying that she could never be a Jamaican national hero. Explain that. And I know it's very simple.
That is cultural appropriation. For Nanny, her name was not even Nanny. They don't even know her name. Her name was Princess Afua. And for Afua to have been a Jamaican hero, she was never at any point did she fight for Jamaica. The surrender was 1738. At what point did she fight for Jamaica? For her to be a Jamaican national hero, the state of Jamaica. They stole our culture. That's cultural appropriation. She was actually an enemy of the colonial state. But then now she's a hero of the state of Jamaica. At no point was anything like that.
So would the state of Jamaica as it is now really be considered in your eyes? Well, Jamaicans see themselves as independent, which is
independence. They are independents. The Bank of Jamaica was Act. The Bank of Jamaica Act is 1960. 62 they get independence, and it is a central bank. Jamaica never had a central bank before 1960. 2 years before independence. The British set up a central bank knowing that they were going to give Jamaica independence. Jamaica Central Bank is a privately owned institution with private shareholders. The Jamaican people hear about the Bank of Jamaica and erroneously assume that it is a state-owned institution and they have any part in it. So your financial, your economic system is controlled by a private institution that operates for its benefits, for profit. By 62 you get independence and you did not change the central bank. You continue with the colonial central bank. But Jamaicans need to remember that the first 5 words in the Jamaican Constitution, an order from the Queen. So the Jamaican Constitution basically is just a management directive as to how you must run my place while you're taking care of it. It is still my place, and as far as the Queen is concerned, on every internet site, wherever you go, she is listed as the Queen of Jamaica. And the Jamaican state has to understand its place and position, even when it comes to the Coptic country. Mr. Douglas Vaz needs to understand they have no right. They need the Governor General and the Accompongton leader are superior to the Jamaican government and all its members because they are sworn servants and the Queen. We are sovereign. You do not even know the determination. Neither the Jamaican state nor can give the determination of the historical understanding. The Maroon lands extend from Accompongton to Flagstaff. In one line, we would not be victorious and allow you to come between our lands. And then from that one line, you make a perfect square. That's the entire Coptic country. It's ours. The Jamaican state cannot defend it in any international court has been because they are still servants of the Queen, and they need to remember that and understand that the Accompongton Maroons are very aware of that. Your constitution says an order from the Queen. That is why all the lands are crown lands and not state of Jamaica lands. Explain that to your people and stop lying to us. Because you have attempted to infringe our own rights, we have now had to bust out your nasty, dirty secrets of trickery against the state, the people of Jamaica. The first, Norman Manley, Washington Manley, was Marcus Garvey's attorney. When Marcus Garvey started the People's Political Party and was charged by the state of Jamaica, Norman Washington Manley, after Marcus Garvey having been sent to prison, then took the initiative, then took the thing as a Mason, as a Freemason, and started the People's National Party with his cousin Norman. And in order to make sure that there was never another black uprising, he sent his cousin Bustamante, to go and start the JLP so that they created the dichotomy so the people couldn't come with something of their own. That's the real history. So when Norman Manley and Buster, the PNP and the JLP tell us that Norman and Buster went to England to try and negotiate independence, that's a lie. Independence was decided by the British Crown. That is why you have the videotape of Bustamante collecting the Constitution from the Queen's sister. It was not a Jamaican people's creation, so they're still not free. They are slaves.
So, in that overstanding, in overstanding the state and interactions, government interactions worldwide, what would be the next step for the Maroons to change this narrative and awaken? Is it a case of we're fine where we are, or are you seeking to?
No, man, there's a development.
Okay, but I would say, would you be seeking to liberate more minds from that state mentality, or is that not?
No, we already have an army of liberated minds. There's an army of liberated minds called Rastafari. So as Maroons, me and my cousins, we had a meeting. There was a meeting, and it was decided that when we get to the point of our own documentation, which is where we are heading to, we are letting the state of Jamaica know that we will soon no longer be using your birth certificates, and we're going to take away all Maroon children. The state of Jamaica is guilty of fraud. My mother was born in Accompongton, and the state of Jamaica issued her a Jamaican passport. That is a Jamaican birth certificate. That is criminal. She's not a child of your state. So we will now offer that Accompong and indigenous citizenship to every Rastafari, because the United Nations declare Rasta indigenous. We have the geographical point from which to stand on. Rastafari has the numerical point. We will unify, because the first Rasta was Maroon, because the only place that you cut your hair was on the plantation. My ancestors never cut them here. The original Maroon all had locks and beards. The only place you cut your hair was on the plantation.
So, being as a man who has travelled the world, as to speak, studied psychology, studied law, studied history, studied geography, studied biology, studied these various different sciences, based also with that conscious ancestral mentality and spirit and DNA which you carry in the liberation. How do you find where how can I best say, where we are in the 21st century now? What would be the next step?
What's the next direction?
For the Maroons of Jamaica in connecting, because around the world, and even if you look at the Rastafari movement around the world, when you look in the UK at the reparations movement, for example, that is headed up by various different organisations of Rasta coming together.
The visionary projection is this. Our generation, born in the 70s, access to different levels of edification, right, and clarity. The intent is eventually, after we get our own documents, sort our own passports and travel and international travel arrangements, our next step is to assign lands to the African Union in Accompongton and give the African Union come and set up its western headquarters in Accompongton for the African Union, thereby giving us that connect with Africa really, even though we already have it with the Ashantis, but we don't want to take it bigger. And then from there, so we ask the African Union to say, listen, our focus is Haiti. We are going, remember, let us never forget that it was an Accompong Maroon bookman who left to Haiti and started the Haitian Revolution. The revolution is done. So we will now let the African Union, so that all the production and development that needs to take place in Haiti must come through African businessmen who are accessed through the African Union's western headquarters in Accompongton. It's a simple progression. It's not nothing hard. And then from there, we make Haiti a black powerhouse in the west. And from there, Haiti and Jamaica be what they are supposed to be, and we'll continue. You understand? And we understand that the treaty of peace and friendship between the Emperor of Morocco and the ambassadors plenipotentiary of the corporation called the United States still stands. It is what the American government used to operate in commerce on Turtle Island, which is a part of the Moorish Moroccan empire. You have to understand, an empire different from the kingdom. The kingdom is the point, but the empire is where it has extended to. And that treaty is there. You go on the internet and type up the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, United States Corporation and the Empire of Morocco. It comes up, and that is the basis on which the Europeans are on the land of Turtle Island. You understand?
So you mentioned about the African Union, but would not some say that the African Union in its present state is an extension of colonial states in regards to, if you go across the African Union now and the military presence by Western forces across Africa, which is being instituted through AFRICOM, okay, how would you, when dealing with the African Union, would it be the political arm, which some would say is an extension or puppeteering of Western environments, or would it be with those more conscious-minded who are moving, like the president of Gambia, for example, at the moment, who has cut?
We already know who these presidents are, who these administrations are, and one of the biggest issues is that there's only one thing that Africa is lacking. It is the contribution of the phenomenal people that are us here in the West. Anytime we put our contribution into Africa, it's unstoppable. We will correct all the errors, because your presence there will mean that some youth and somebody in Africa who is doing idiot, unnecessary, invaluable media will be ousted by the light which you bring. And that will become the standard. So he's only able to do that because you're here, not being given the respect that you are supposed to be getting. But the moment you touch back the soil and start keep on doing what you're doing, it becomes a bright light. Here, it gets a fight. We have all our answers lie in us. Africa, everything that Africa needs is right here. We here in the West have it.
Okay, I'm going to take you back a little bit in regards to the overturning of ancestral, they would say worship, but we never worshipped our ancestors. It was a gratitude and respect for being what we are as a people to this day, which are an amalgamation, an accumulation of all our ancestors' experiences, lives, and making us up what we are today genetically. How important is the understanding of your ancestors? And the reason I say that, when I spoke to the chief of the council, and I asked him a very simple question in regards to if Maroon Town wishes to maybe facilitate in that which Jamaica has to offer in regards, without having to seek external or develop programs of itself. Why doesn't it just integrate back into Jamaica and have all the so-called luxuries of the state, as to speak, so-called? His answer to me was simply this. His answer was simply this: that would be a disrespect and a sacrilege in the name of our ancestors and to our ancestors. And that to me just summed it up, the importance of the respect of the ancestors. And you only see that cultural respect to our ancestors in the Rastafari movement coming out of Jamaica. That's the only place you see that in Jamaica. Anything else is based on Western religion and Christian, which is African in origin. Let's not get it twisted. But what it is today, what it is today. So how important is that to retain that aspect of self in creating, I would say Maroon warriors, as to speak?
That aspect of self, you see, that says it all. It is about maintaining yourself. If you don't have that, you don't. It's like you're telling the universe that you are nothing, because I am my ancestors. You go back 4 generations, you're gonna find one of my great grandfather that looked like me, walked like me, dressed the way I dress, had my voice tone. All his women look just like all my women. I like big body knock knee, can't say I. Him like big body knock knee, can't say I.
So the same.
That was me, but I can't occupy the same space twice. So that was me then. And you reap what you sow. So I sent my child to school. She sent her child to school. So I come back with a mother. I come back and I inherit. I reap what I sow. And then when you understand that is you always honor your ancestors because you're ascribing power unto yourself because you are them here now.
See, that's a simple science, which is, it seems somewhat complex for people to understand. Yet it speaks about such things. You know, if you go into the Bible and if it's explained with African eyes, as to speak, you will find this in there. It's quite apparent, depending on whom is reading and if they're going to take the time to study language, study words, study tricks, study deceit, which is being placed upon us in various different forms and fashions. So, in regards to the ancestral understanding of who and what we are as a people, how important is it for people to remake that connection with the land, which I see a lot of that. When I was up in Marooned, Accompongton, and when the people said that they are farmers, they have that interaction with the land. There was one elder there who come and spoke to me towards the end when I was leaving, and he started doing some supplications in a tweet, and not only that, he expressed the fact that before he done that, he expressed the fact that he was a healer, he was a herbalist. You get me? See, he was an old man now, but in his day, that's what it was. And you know, just to have that conversation with him, that was an off-camera conversation, mind you, but it was a blessing that I received from that elder. The sciences of whom and what we are, how important is it to retain that, and is that fully retained up there in the hills?
All right, it is there and we have kept it. And you see, what people have to understand is that it is there in plain sight. So as a descendant of the shamanic family, that very thing that they call Obia, I live. I'm not a Christafari. So I do not practice any Western concepts as far as my religiosity goes and my spirituality. So my spirituality is my altar. I know my chant. I know say yes, I can evoke that energy. I am me live the science. Me know say we are the Obia man. The royal family kept that metaphysics. They call it Obia, we call it no, it's metaphysics. We kept that. It was my great-grandfather, my grandparents. It's our family keep that. So it has fallen to me. By the time I was a child, I grew up seeing the books. I read every book. I saw it. I understood what it meant. I understood, so, okay, if you do that and do that and do that, and this is the cosmic metaphysical energy. Studying in Cuba, I was initiated into the Yoruba, Ibarago Moyoba, as an Elegua. So even as you ask about where we're going, I am an Elegua. So even as an Elegua, I am at the crossroads. I symbolize the time and the change. I am the crossroads. Me know that. My mother understood that and edify our firstborn son as an Ashanti princess. She know that our firstborn son, and him have to come hold that office and the understanding and edify me and make sure, say, she brought me clarity and light and taught me as a child, say, look, I'm not sending you to go to this school and you're not going amongst these people and don't live yourself to be one like them. It's when you must go up and come back and you must make sure, say, you build up a compound town. We must make it into a city. That she drilled into me. So that's how it goes. It is a continuity.
And that continuity which is carrying on, do you reach out, because as that genetic bloodline, as to speak, gets spread out across the diaspora? So based on that ancestral bloodline, because ancestral bloodline was very important to us and very important to the European society, because they understood that they needed to disrupt that ancestral bloodline, and that disruption was done by way of removal of names, changing of dates, tying in the vine, you know, mixing bloodlines with their bloodlines, and so on and so forth. It was all part of the destruction of the nobleness of whom we are as a people from these royal bloodlines coming out. Some would say the 12 tribes. You know, different people decide it different ways depending on from where they come from, but the principle remains the same. So across the diaspora, you have a mix of different people who maybe retain those genetic markers. How do you decide on your travels, and people decide that of you in order to initiate you into their various schools? Do you seek on your travels to find those like-minded blood minds and draw them in to the building and liberation, or is it just happening through nature because nature is the greatest direction?
It's a combination of both. For example, if you have any understanding, if you grow in a shamanic family, there are certain things certain symbols, certain metaphysical understandings that you would see and recognize and know and say, okay, you go somewhere else and you see that tradition. You say, oh, when they do that, it's like us doing that. And you can interplay and intercommunicate with them. And then that's how I get invited. And that's because I also seek it. Because I understand it is mine. So much was taken from me. I'm trying to get as much as was taken from me back. You understand? We're going to understand. We understand, as the great Dr. Ben taught us, Dr. Ben Yakinan taught us, of the light that is there to be had in the craft of Amun-Ra. You understand? And show us, he says, this is our elevation. And we know about the Yoruba. We know about the Abakwa brotherhood in Cuba. You understand? And we have our understandings here as Accompongton Maroons. When we travel the world, we go to Cuba, we find the Mambises in Cuba who speak the Twi language, have the retentions, or carry the same genetic markers. And their history is they landed, ran away to the hills, and kept up a fight for freedom. We're never slaves. We go to Suriname, it's the same thing. The same genetic markers. We go to Honduras, we go to Colombia, we go to Brazil, the Candomblé. The same people. So this was a mission. The Maroon War was a mission, you know.
Tell us a little bit more about the mission, because you mentioned before about the stool and how that stool traversed here to Jamaica, which you've held, and you know an image of a stool is going to come up on your screen, so you'll understand exactly what you're saying and the importance of this in African tradition. As a matter of fact, we may go on and speak with some African chiefs to the understanding of the stool and the royalty which comes with that, or the throne, as to speak. But you explained the fact that you had that in Accompongton, that you have it and how it got here, and you said there was a mission which was placed upon that stool and those who were seemingly captured. So therefore, could you explain a little bit, because that's a narrative which is never explained, and maybe
tell you, like I said, I'm the crossroads, so we can divulge that information. Just see ourselves as an African king in Ashanti Kingdom of Ghana, and you see these people coming, because remember, they don't teach us of the Ashanti wars, the 100 and odd years that the British were attacking and trying to take on the Ashanti and the Gold Coast in Ghana. So the African king sees his people being taken in. We are safe, we are royalty, and we have our power, and we have the army and things. So some of us are safe. And the king simply says to his son, listen, take Daniyel and take Bobo and take Mark and take Juba and take Knife and take Jalani and wherever they're taking your people, make them catch you know, and go there. But Funa job is running the land here for start the fire and start the war. These are the people you should lead. So go there and lead them in a fight. And we went on the ships. Some of we end up at Honduras, become the Honduran Maroon. Some of we end up on a ship, I got Suriname and become Suriname. Everybody land and kept the mission. So the stool ended up in Jamaica. That stool, it means that it was a concerted effort to get that stool on the ship and off the ship. We start fight, create distraction, slip it on, keep it even while in change, because it was a mission. It was a systematic military political strategy to send the Maroons around here. That's why everywhere we are a point of resistance, because that's what it was. We understood the Spanish Inquisition. It's still going on. Jamaicans don't understand that. In our history classes, they tell us about the Dark Ages, right? The Dark Ages is 710 AD to 1490, when the black people ruled Spain. And that's when they got knowledge and wisdom. 1492, when Isabella, using the Pope's army, got the blacks out of Spain. They went now and attacked the blacks' homeland, and that you see is Columbus's voyage, with Moors as his ship captains. So the Spanish Inquisition was about eradicating that true science that the Moors had left in Spain, and putting back the fallacy of Catholicism. That's what it was. Because before that, 710 AD to 1490, the Catholic Church had no say in Europe. It was run by the Moors. They teach us that as the Dark Ages.
So going to the understanding of Catholicism and the church interactions across the world, because many of the narratives that we have, even when you become consciously minded, are still based on Catholic or Christian or religious church narratives which have been intertwined. Even on our journey of liberation, there's still that intertwination unless you start to go back to understand the African stories which made up those Christian origins. But most people don't. One of the questions I would ask is, when I was up there at Accompongton, they have a church up there, and that shows the depth of the integration of the narratives into even our resistance cultures.
Because
how do you explain that?
Is that all right? For lots of generations there was no such thing as an interface. But then when the slaves became free, at emancipation, and we and the slaves kind of started to interact, and they had a freedom to come to us, and then along with the slaves who started the interface and that interaction came the church and its influence. And a man take up a Christian girl, and she start influencing him to Christianity. And you understand when I say a girl take up a Christian man and come a Maroon town, and him start influencing her to Christianity, because of that him know up on the plantation coming out. And that, you understand? And as me says, that would have been the 4 generations ago, that would have been the first generations of our ancestors them that start even get to learn to read and write the invaders' language. Before that, we never spoke it. You understand me? There was no effort, there was no sort of interaction to learn, there was no desire to.
So in this day and time, does it have the same meaning, or is it like, like Santeria, where
it can't mean anything? The fact that we keep our celebration, if it is irrelevant. The people, more than anything, in Maroons use it. Yes. It can't mean anything, because we keep it's our celebration and our culture that run the thing. We still live it. Every Maroon still live them thing. The church is just there. All the one them who say them are Christian, all the Maroons who say they are Christian, 600 of them, they are beats and a jump, and them take part in the preparation of the ritual food and take part in the rituals and things that we do in private, They take part. So how much are they really Christian? Or are they merely just use it as an interface tool?
No, I definitely understand that, because if you look at the Santeria across Haiti, it became the same thing. It was an interface tool between the
Catholic, is it? They just pass it under their things.
Yes.
Yeah, man, we understand that.
So basically, we want people to understand that the Maroons are not just something that you read about in the history books. You can go and pick up a book on the war of the Maroons, or you can go and watch movies about the Maroons. And I said this when I was speaking to the chairperson of the Maroon Council, and to make people realise that you're not reading about something of 200, 300 years ago. You're reading there are a living people. Not just up there in Accompongton, or what's known as Maroon Town, but across the world. These same chiefs and spies and warriors which were sent in amongst the slave ships to make sure that they were able to liberate their people at some form or fashion. This occurrence is still happening, just like that occurrence is still happening by way of various different, whether it be media, various different activists, various different people who become national heroes in various different countries, or become activists in their various different communities on various different levels, some internationally, some more at a community level, but they're still working to the same thing, which is to bring liberty, liberation, self-determination to their people. Well, the Maroons of Maroon Town are still there dealing with that, but they have something which most people don't have, and they have, as you said earlier on, an indigenous land to make claim to. Not to make claim to, they already claimed it. It already belongs to them. They have indigenous rights. They have a place of which to base themselves from. But like any group or organization or coming together of peoples, this requires assistance from those like-minded people who may be outside, who have some skill or some practice to maybe bring to the table to assist in its journey, the journey that you spoke about, which is creating that vision
Progressive growth.
the progressive growth, and people, can get involved in that. They can assist to make the livelihoods of the people there function better, in regards to, the computers, and be able to bring things up to date there, so people will be able to access it there instead of people having to leave. Because one of the things which I'm going to ask you right now is,
well, the average Maroon don't leave, because we are there every year for our celebrations. Once you have taken part in the ritual, the Maroon who is a go-go, she coming to 6th of January. She's not leaving. It's what she does. It's part of her life. So it's not really a leave. So even we have the Council of Overseas Maroons. So Maroons who live overseas, there is a Council of Overseas Maroons between Canada, UK and America. There's always Maroons. A Maroon don't give it up. Not once you have known, say and mean what it knows to possess that blood.
And the 6th of January, what is that to, as in regards to, I know man if I come and see it still, but a little overview to people.
It's really a celebration because it is also the day on which the British surrendered. You understand? So we celebrate the surrender. We celebrate Kojo's Earth Strong, because that's Kojo is born on that day. You understand me?
All right. Well, look, we are gonna wrap it up right now because we have to move on to the next mission. But once again, I'd like to just say a big thank you to the people here. We have Boba, who just a cook up.
I stand every time, give thanks, wellness space. Yeah, man, Rastafari, truth and right.
This is the wellness space, and you can see the pots there with some good food to cook up. Dumpling, I get make up on the right hand side.
Wellness space. 22 West Road, University of West Indies, Mona. The Rastafari Study Center. Right, we cater to your wellness.
And I see the bees thing going on here. I see a man a plant over here. So real natural thing going on right here, as it should be. So make sure if you ever here pass on and get our food. Unfortunately, I can't stop for our food. Them dumpling I got boiled in enough time for me to leave with something. So next time I come through, I have to come touch up the plate still. But listen, we'd like to thank everybody for listening. I hope you learned something from here. I hope you want to get involved when we splice this with the other interview and we splice this with the other bits and pieces that we got here. Everything blessed. So between now and then, we'd like to say peace. HMPTV television, helping my people television, Kingston, Jamaica, live. Take care between now and then, and as we say every time, find something nice to do for somebody. Make a difference in somebody's life. Do something to bless up somebody, and then blessings will come forward unto you. With that, we say peace.